I just wanted to kind of talk about sports and activities and wonder how we can participate in those sports safely. And if we can, what sports would you recommend we can do? Are we okay to go to the rock climbing gym? Are we okay to go to the gym in general? What kind of sports are we allowed to do? And are we safe to do that?
My role at St. Luke's, I'm what we call our medical director of our sports medicine section. And so this is an area that is of particular interest to me and my colleagues. Hitting on some of the themes that we've heard and we've talked about this morning. On one end of the spectrum are sports that are relatively solitary, that are conducted outside, and inherent to them is social distancing. On the other end of the spectrum would be contact sports conducted in a close environment with relative intimacy between opponents. So on the one end of the spectrum might be going in the foothills for a run here around Boise, being a cross-country runner. Isolation, outside, on your own. At the other extreme, unfortunately, would probably be wrestling right now. An indoor sport in the closest of contact situations, oftentimes contested between individuals who historically not only don't know one another, but sometimes are from very different regions. So they might be from different states. So we're getting away from that idea of a cohort, right? We're talking about, hey, it's not just your family, it's not your immediate community, it's somebody from a different state that you're competing against in wrestling, where these larger regional tournaments happen with some regularity. And then, of course, all the other sports fill in between. And obviously, you were all bright young people, and I've appreciated your questions and comments this morning, but you can kind of fill in where other sports fit in between. Given your wherewithal, it's tough. It's again, right now, as a physician who's asked this question sometimes, basketball gives me pause, gives me reason for concern, and quite frankly, football did this past autumn. Even though participants are participating outside, it's a close contact sport. So in summary, keeping in mind the ideas of we're safer outside when we're distanced, when we're in isolation, if we're close to people, we're close to people we're familiar with, and we can more easily and readily define them as our cohort. We're safer using those parameters. We get less safe as we move to the other extreme. So Maddie, again, I feel like repeatedly this morning, we may not be telling you what you want to hear, but I think our role here is to say, hey, we tell you what we know, even though the message isn't always very palatable. And when we do know, we want to share that with you. And again, unfortunately, we don't always know.
Obviously, we're looking forward to spring sports because they're outside, and just being outdoors, able to distance properly is definitely something that we look forward to and think that we can be successful. Again, we learned from what happened in the fall, so we made it through. There was an over and under, see if we'd make it through with athletic directors, to see if we'd make it through a full sports season in the fall, and to see if we would have state, district, and state tournaments, which we did. We didn't in the spring, just because we didn't know enough about what was going on, and we had to obviously shut down and mitigate spread instantly, and then be able to learn as we got more information as it comes to us. Then we can try to disseminate that. And my daughter was a senior volleyball player this year that had her season cut short because someone on her team, instead of trying to be personally responsible, waited and didn't want to miss playing time. And so because of that, then others were infected on the team, and then their whole season was shut down. And so learning from those examples, I think Maddie and Brooke, you talked about personal accountability and how do we be good examples and stewards. And I think you guys, I see, and there's leaders amongst you, and if you can use that positive peer pressure to do the right thing, I think that will increase your chances of having those activities that you want to have in for your senior year and have those later on. It's not saying you're guaranteed to have them, but the more you do now and the more personal accountability you have and adherence to the plans and protocols that are put into place is so important and to give you the best chance later. And so that's something that I think we continue to learn as we go, and making sure that those plans and protocols at your individual schools, because they're different from district to district, community to community. They're central district, the health districts are different in each of the areas around our state as well. And so there's a lot of variability, but knowing what your plan is and being willing to enforce your plan gives you the best opportunity to have a full season, to have a successful time in playing athletics, which we know is important to many of you.